Hello, everybody. This is NNOA, your host, Captain Rick Wright, historian for the famous National Naval Officers Association. And hey, it's Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is coming up a couple of days from now. And of course, we are dealing with a pandemic, so a lot of folk are kind of on hiatus, which they should be as we get things settled. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the National Naval Officers Association was established in 1972. We're coming up 50 years. Yes, 50 years. We have a big gala at the Naval Academy in the year 2022. But today is, hey, what's Ruben? Today is the 22nd of November? 22nd of November, 2020. Oh, 21st. 21st. Hey, I'm an old captain here. Deal with me, everybody. But I'm the host of This is NNOA, produced and directed by Roosevelt Reuben Wright III. Well, the thing I was basically trying to say here is, hey, folk, take care, be safe, and kind of, on the travel thing, let's watch it. But we are dealing with a pandemic here in this stage of life right now. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the National Naval Officers Association, representing United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, United States Coast Guard, Public Health Service, oceanographic officers all over the world. Our chapters are far and near. It is great to have you back on the scene. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the United States Coast Guard Academy today and find the medical director. Yes, he's always ready at the United States Coast Guard Academy at New London, Connecticut. Ladies and gentlemen, NNOA membership, check this incredible brother out. Captain Esan Simon, United States Coast Guard. Man, he's got an undergrad degree from Harvard. Yeah, biology, medical degree from Emory. He's a flight surgeon. He's everything. Captain Simon, welcome to This is NNOA with Captain Rick Wright, United States Navy, retired. How you doing this morning?
Well, that's quite an introduction there, Dr. Wright. I appreciate your enthusiastic intro, and it is an absolute pleasure for me to join you here this morning on a beautiful Saturday morning, about 55 degrees here in New London, Connecticut, and I'm just absolutely humbled and honored to be here. And just my quick caveat, the views expressed herein are my own and do not represent the Coast Guard Academy, Coast Guard, or the Commandant. So this is just a little lunchtime chat here with Dr. Wright and the NNOA. So thanks for the invite. Really excited to be here.
Well, pleasure to have you on board. And also the Commander, Admiral Schultz, Commandant of the U.S. Coast Guard, and Admiral Ray. Hey, Captain Rick Wright here. And by the way, Reuben Wright III knows Admiral Schultz up close and personal. All right, we'll put that on the line real quick.
He was just here not too long ago, so he comes here frequently.
Big shout out to him, and also on behalf of Admiral Sinclair Harris, our great president of the National Naval Officers Association, and our executive VP, that is Captain Simonia Blasingame, United States Navy, and all of our great folk on the board of directors. Welcome aboard. Captain Simon, man, what a career. Give this audience a historical timeline of where you were born, man, and how you ended up at the United States Coast Guard Academy.
Oh, absolutely. Pleasure to do so. Thanks, Doc Wright. Interestingly enough that you mentioned that the NNOA's 50th is coming up in 1972. 72 is a good year because June 3rd, 72 is my birthday. So
wow.
I think NNOA was the first conference was around June or July. Is that right?
Yes.
At the Naval Academy?
Yes, when Captain Kenneth Johnson and all the guys got together and we had yes. So you and NNOA are on a parallelization in life.
Yeah, and for the audience, this is Dr. Wrights and we've actually never physically met. We've only talked by phone twice and now this time. So I know there's some things about me you don't know, Doc Wright. So as you asked about birth and all that.
So, what city, what town, what place?
So I'm actually an immigrant. So I was born in Guyana in South America in 1972. So the background there is my dad is Guyanese and all his family is from Guyana. My mom's Jamaican, all her family's Jamaican. She was born in Jamaica in a tiny little town, not where all the tourists go, but in a
so
small
you know about Kerry Goat, right?
Oh, I love some curry goat,
You
some
love
rice and
curry goat,
peas,
huh?
and some curry goat,
Yes,
and some
indeed.
ackee and
Oh, yeah,
sawfish,
yes,
and
indeed.
so yeah,
What's that,
yeah, man.
planting? What's what they call it,
It's
planting?
plantain, some fried
Plantain?
plantain.
Yes,
I
I know
know, I
about
know. All
Jamaica.
had some plantain last night for dinner.
Yes, Sun Rivers Fall, you know, Jamaica. Yes, Kingston,
So
Spanish Town.
Happy Grove, Jamaica is where my mom's from. So a lot of people from the British Commonwealth at the time, ended up going
Yes,
to England to study and work. So both had family members go to England, and they both ended up in England, and they met in England. My mom and dad got married in England, and actually my dad joined the English Navy back in the day. And then
wow.
my two older brothers were born in England while dad was still there. But then dad got out of the Navy, out of the English Navy, wanted to move back to Guyana, back home. So took the family, at that time, mom, dad, two brothers, moved back to Guyana. I was born in Guyana in '72. We stayed there for another few years. And then dad eventually came up to the United States when I was about 3 years old. So we were still back, in Guyana with mom and my two older
Yes.
brothers. And he just, had the sort of the $10 in his pocket kind of thing, and ended up in New York, and had some family there, but just trying to make it, waiting tables, just working, just trying to make it. So after about 2 years or so, eventually was able to, gather some funds to bring the family up, and we came up, and then we ended up in St. Louis.
From New York City to the Mississippi River.
Yep. So we ended up in Missouri, and so I was 5 when I came to the country, and grew up in St. Louis. Had just a fantastic experience there. I went to this real small boys' school called St. Louis Priory, and then I had another brother that was born in Missouri, so he was born in
Yes.
St. Louis. And then the school that we went to, very sort of instrumental in my life growing up. It was founded by English monks, and with my parents having that English connection from back in the day, when they found that school, they're like, "Hey, that's where we want you guys to go." So all of us went to St. Louis Priory. There's only 310 boys from 7th grade to 10th grade, and we studied Latin and French, and deep into the character development, making sure that you played sports, and community involvement. A lot of things kind of similar to the military, and even to the Coast Guard Academy, where I'm literally sitting here at right now. So great experience, and another formative part of that was the church experience that we had grown up.
Yes.
We grew up going to the Chesterfield Baptist Church, and that was a big part of
Baptist Church.
Yeah, that was a big part of life.
Here.
Going to youth group,
Yes.
the Bible studies, and Sunday school, and having that church community. Working with the kids in Vacation Bible School, all those things in the summer. So that was a big part of growing up, and so that's a little bit about growing up.
And those teachers laid you into an incredible cognitive foundation for success happening for you, Captain. All right, so you're in St. Louis. You're drinking that Mississippi River water. All righty, and then of course, wow, Harvard shows up. How did that happen?
Yeah, well, I can tell you exactly how it happened. And as a matter of fact, this week, no kidding, today's Saturday, November 21st, about 3 days ago, I got my alumni newsletter, the alumni journal that comes out about, a couple times a year.
Yes.
And my teacher, Mr. Finan, Tony Finan, who is still teaching today at Priory, he said one day, he said, "Hey, Esan, I think you should apply to Harvard." And I just kind of looked at him. I said, "Okay, coach." So he was my football coach, and that school over 6 years, people get to know you, the teachers get to know you. It's small, and they work with you, and I think Mr. Finan taught history, he coached football, he was the weightlifting coach. So I had a lot of interaction with Mr. Finan. Never once thought about applying to Harvard, and he just said, "I think you should apply." Turns out he actually went to Harvard, and then he called the football. He said, "Hey, the football recruiting, they come through the different towns and all that. I think you should meet them."
Looking for players, man.
I said, "Okay, coach." So I went ahead and applied, met the recruiting coach, went up for a recruiting trip, and when I got there for the recruiting trip, I discovered that they were sort of like normal people. They were, Simple Simon from St. Louis. Not
Hey, what was that?
much.
What was that name you just said? Simple Simon.
Simple Simon from St. Louis, and I went to Harvard for
Is that a
the
nickname or something that came up?
one of my track buddy from
Okay.
college,
So
Derek.
you were running track.
I did. I played
the sport.
I played sports all 3 seasons. I got there, played football in the fall. As soon as the day football finished, as a matter of fact, today would have been the Harvard-Yale game today.
Oh yes,
and
pandemic going on. Yes,
and that's kind of the last game of the season.
Yeah,
and then pretty much a week or 2 after that, indoor track had the first track meet. So we played the Harvard football game, and then I would roll right over to indoor track, and that would go all winter season. As soon as indoor track finished, we played. I went into outdoor track, and then we went down to Rice University every spring break for 7 to 10 days for our spring training trip. Yeah, I played. So that was the sports that I played, and then.
Hey, hold it. What was your position in football?
I was a running back.
Oh, yeah. You were carrying you were carrying the rock.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Oh,
long time ago.
At Harvard. Oh God! And also, there's a Coast Guard Academy connection to Syracuse University. One of my students, who is now the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Doug Marone, was an assistant football coach at the United States Coast Guard Academy, New London, where you are sitting in that wonderful, spacious office of yours, Captain.
Right here, actually, we're on the 3rd floor of a base house that was built in 1932.
Yeah,
that literally is on the campus of the Coast Guard Academy, and we live on the Coast Guard Academy. So I'm upstairs on the 3rd floor in the office of the base house here, and I could just look out of my window and see the field. I can see the Thames River, all those things right here at the Coast Guard Academy.
Wow, what a view! What an opportunity! Hey, Coach, down the Jacksonville Jaguars, your old professor, Dr. Rick Wright, Syracuse, talking to Captain Esan Simon, Medical Director, United States Coast Guard Academy. And ladies and gentlemen, this is NNOA, our weekly podcast, and we're broadcasting from upstate New York, Marcellus, New York, and the suburbs of Syracuse, New York. And our executive producer is Roosevelt Reuben Wright III. And today our guest is Captain Esan Simon, who came from, oh my God, what a world, Jamaica and all that connection. Hey, by the way, you mentioned Jamaica. Michael Manley, who was the Prime Minister of Jamaica. Jamaican students here, I was kind of the ad hoc advisor to the organization called JAMA back in the 1980s. And when Michael Manley was out of power, I told the Jamaican students, why don't y'all do something really exciting? I said, what, Professor? Why don't you invite Michael Manley up to Syracuse? And they wrote him a letter. He couldn't wait to get here because he was crazy about Jim Brown, our great running back here at Syracuse at Archbold Stadium back in the 1950s. Well, back in the day. So you were a biology major, right?
I was. And, and something else about Harvard, when I got there, sports was obviously a big part of my life. It took a lot of time, but also I think there were kind of a few main components. Sports was certainly big. Obviously academics, and the study. I always had a job. I typically had multiple jobs. When I first got there, I cleaned bathrooms. So I worked on the dorm crew. As a matter of fact, I didn't even have any real money to get to Harvard. So,
that's the great story. I think President Barack Obama told me he didn't have any money either when he went to Harvard.
So I had a $60 Greyhound bus trip, one-way ticket from St. Louis to Boston to Harvard. That's about a 30-hour bus drive, and all that. So I was by myself, and got into the Port Authority downtown New York like 1 a.m, and the bus,
New York City.
It was canceled, and we had to. But I went there a week early just so I could do dorm crew, and the students will clean out the dorms because dorm crew is one of the highest paying jobs on campus because you're cleaning bathrooms. It's not exactly a glamorous job, but it was a high-paying job. Made $7.50 an hour, but I could set my own schedule. So they just said, "Hey, we want you to clean these 10 bathrooms. Doesn't really matter what time of the day you do it. Just get them done." Because I had football practice and track practice and all. I had a biology lab and chemistry, organic chemistry lab, so I could sort of work around. And then the other main part, which is probably one of the most important parts. I did this group called Campus Crusade for Christ. It's called now it's called Crew. But we had Bible studies, and every Friday night we'd meet as a large group, and we'd have a sermon, and just a little prayer and fellowship together. Then during the week we had Bible studies, and got a couple of guys in my Bible study group. There's one I still keep in touch with. Matter of fact, just emailed him about 2 months ago, and I learned a lot through that Campus Crusade for Christ, and I would say one of the more essential disciplines that I've had is just daily Bible study time. And that's where I picked that up from. But some lifelong friends through there, including the director of the Campus Crusade ministry, who I just called last week, because we keep up as well. So he came to my promotion ceremony for '06, and so just a lot of roots there from 1990 till today.
Our executive producer, Reuben Wright III's great-grandmother, Mrs. Annie Wright Collins of Elizabeth City, North Carolina, big deaconess in the AME Zion Church. She is smiling in heaven with this interview this afternoon because the church was her rock and her salvation. And she always told me, she said, grandson, don't you forget, just put God first in your endeavors and everything will be all right.
Well, on a side note, after the interview, I have to touch base because my wife's dad was an AME minister for over 40 years. So man, I'll have to catch up and see who that.
This connection is incredible. Well, all right. So that trip to Harvard, great football, running back at Harvard, track star at Harvard. By the way, Reuben Wright also is a track guy. So you guys can talk off air about running track.
And I wouldn't call myself a star, but I was a participant. So
but you got the job done. Okay, so we pick up a baccalaureate degree in biology from Harvard, Harvard Square, Cambridge. Man,
that's it, man.
This is America's greatest Ivy Leaguer, greatest university. And
some would argue, but
well, but I'll just give it his props because I'm an HBCU grad of.
Hey, that's all good.
And my doctoral degree from Syracuse University, undergrad. By the way, Captain Warren Judd, United States Coast Guard. We are both Elizabeth City State University alums. And I got my master's from North Carolina Central and Virginia State out there, also a certificate for advanced graduate studies there. But no, enough for me. Back to you, Captain. Now, already, were you thinking MD, medical doctor at Harvard? How did the trip down to that other school called Emory University to get it?
Great question. So I started off, I actually started off majoring in French. And that, getting back to my high school days, French was my favorite subject.
Yes.
Like all high school, I just loved French. And a lot of that had to do with Miss Lemon. That was my high school teacher
I love
French. And she was just fantastic. So I started majoring in French and pre-med, and then it was getting a little complicated. So I switched to biology and pre-med. And then it came time to apply for med school. And your question about med school, when I was back in high school, I was telling you about the Chesterfield Baptist Church, the Sunday school, and Vacation Bible School. So I ended up working with kids a lot, in particular Vacation Bible School. So I kind of had this, hey, let me get into pediatrics. And before I even went to college, my mom and dad were kind of like, hey, you should look into medicine. They kind of said, so they kind of set me down that, trail a little bit. And then between sort of working with the kids at church, and I was like, okay, let me do pediatrics. So that was sort of the seeds of the medical. And then in terms of Emory, medical school is, it's not easy to get into. And
they call you, or did you call them?
No, you have to go and apply. So,
okay, all right.
But I'll tell you that story, how that happened, though. So it's not easy to get into, and it's not cheap either. I mean, it's literally costs thousands of dollars.
Yes.
The whole process, the application process. Then you have to go for interviews and travel, and back then there was no Zoom and all that stuff, so you actually had to physically go. So it cost a lot of money, and I didn't really have a lot of money. I mean, I was, I would deliver newspapers, worked in the plan giving office, worked in libraries. But I was, I had to buy my books and had to, buy a bus ride ticket to go back home and all that stuff. So I didn't really have a lot of money.
Hey, Captain, I'm loving your recruitment intro to the program that allowed you to get your medical degree.
We'll get there.
I just want to, okay, we go in that direction. I'm loving it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I remember specifically, and this is back in like 1993 now, if you based on your financial situation, could apply for some scholarships just to apply. Like it would only cost like, I think it was about $50 or something like that total. You could apply to like 10 schools as opposed to like $100 or $200 per school to apply to. So I applied to like 10 schools, and one of them was Emory University. And because my my college roommate was like, hey, you should check out Emory. He told me, I said, okay. And here's the story with Emory. So the same Campus Crusade for Christ group, the director, who, by the way, I had to get surgery on my thumb. He said, hey, come stay at our house. And back then he just had a new baby, and so I stayed there for a couple of days. I couldn't write. I was on narcotics, and it was during because I had surgery. I had pins put in my hand, and it hurt. So they gave me.
But you're an athlete. Then you're Harvard grad. No pain.
It still hurt.
Yes.
So he comes to me. He didn't know I'd apply to Emory at all. He just comes to me and say, "Hey, son, I want you to go to this conference, this Campus Crusade National Conference for African Americans." I said, "Hey, Mark, I don't have any money. I can't go to that conference." He said, "No, we're going to pay for it for you." I said, "Okay, where's it at?" And he said, "It's in Atlanta." And I said, "Really?" I said, "I applied to a school in Atlanta." I said, let me call Emory, because he was going to pay for the ticket and all that for me to go to the registration. So I called up Emory and I said, "Hey, I'm coming down there this particular week for this conference. Can I have an interview? If I'm offered an interview, could it be during that time?" And sure enough, they actually said, they looked at my package, they looked at and then they got back to me and said, "Okay, hey, we'll schedule it for this time." And that's how I got to Emory. And I went down there, I got in, and they let me know I'll never forget, Dr. Jonas Schulman. Just a great, he was an infectious disease guy. A couple of weeks later, I was in my college dorm. He called my phone and said, "Esan, this is Dr. Schulman. We want to offer you a full scholarship to Emory University." I said, "I'll take it." And I was done. That was it. I didn't apply to any more schools.
Emory, the ATL, Atlanta.
And that's how I got to Emory. And great experience.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are moving along with This is NNOA. I'm your host, Captain Rick Wright, United States Navy retired historian for the National Naval Officers Association. Today, as we get ready for Thanksgiving and we're dealing with a pandemic, we have an incredible guest today, a member of the NNOA, National Naval Officers Association, and I'm talking about Captain Esan Simon, United States Navy, United States Coast Guard, Public Health Service, got an MD, he's got his baccalaureate degree from Harvard. Yeah, that incredible academic institution up in Massachusetts. And right now, he is rich, he's got money, the scholarship. Hey, hold it. Let me think about something real quick. Here at Syracuse years ago, Captain Bernard Henry, Dr. Henry, was president of the State University of New York here at Syracuse Medical Center. And he came to me one day when I got my commission early in the 80s. He said, "Commander Wright." I said, "Yes, I got a project I want you to help me with." There's a program called PRIMUS, Physicians in Residence was the acronym used back then, where basically we got to go out and find doctors we can give them a scholarship to come and get their MD degrees, and they get commission. Everything is paid for. And once they get their, get their medical training done, and the commission is on the table, they got to give a 6-year commitment or whatever. Hey, hold it. Is that program, did you get a scholarship like that at Emory?
So, great question. So when Dr. Schulman called and offered me admission to Emory and a full scholarship, it was an academic, scholarship kind of thing. And I wasn't a citizen. So I got my citizenship. So I took the scholarship. Thank you, Dr. Schulman.
Yes.
And then my first year in medical school, I got my citizenship. It takes a while to, all the paperwork and all that sort of thing. So, and then my dad said, "Hey, you should think about the Navy." Said,
"Wow, here we go."
I said, and when he told me about that, I started looking into it, and I just said, "Oh man, hey, serve the country, see the world." Like that was why I looked into the Navy, and then I applied to the Navy scholarship program. It's called HPSP, the Health Profession Service Scholarship Program.
That's it's the same thing as PRIMUS, but new acronyms have surfaced.
I know exactly what it is. And so I was on the full scholarship from Emory, but then when I got my citizenship, the next year, I've rolled over to the Navy scholarship because I learned about Navy and all these opportunities, flight surgery. I was like, wow, that sounds cool. And, serve the country, see the world. So I did the Navy scholarship for the remaining 3 years. Each year I went somewhere. As a matter of fact, so right now I'm sitting in New London, Connecticut. My very first intro to the Navy was an hour away from here in Newport, Rhode Island, at the Navy base up there, which is, back then it was Officer Indoctrination School, which was 6 weeks long. So just last week, I went back to that base, and I've not been back there since 1996. Yeah, 1996.
Oh,
and I had to go back to that base last week for some training. But anyway, so I did I had an opportunity for 6 weeks, Officer Indoctrination School in Newport, another rotation in San Diego, and then another rotation in Portsmouth, Virginia. And of course, for all these rotations, they, it's paid. They, get an airplane ticket for you, a rental car. And I was like, hey, this is great. I was like, I didn't have a car, and they're giving me a car for a month to go, do a rotation out there. I'm like, hey, this Navy thing's all right, so.
Newport, Rhode Island, the naval base. I love it. Yep. Of course, the Navy War College is there. And of course, a lot of our ships. Summers, I was head of the public affairs operation for the Navy's Great Lakes cruise. And we brought up Navy LSTs and FFGs to cruise all 5 of the American Canadian lakes. And at the end of the cruise in the summer, our last port to stop at before we went back either to Norfolk or Charleston or Mayport was Newport in the summertime. And around August, and the place was rocking. And of course, those mansions out there, those real old mansions, they had some big receptions for us, for the crew members of the ship. And we had a ball.
You broke up on me for a second here. You froze.
You got me? I'm froze? My director, let's see.
Unfortunately, our Zoom is
okay, stand by. Well, I'll keep talking here. We got our great director, Ruben.
Okay, you're back. You froze for me for a couple of seconds there.
Well, we're going to do the edit and all that good stuff. We got a genius here who's I'm the host of the show. By the way, everybody, this is NNOA, hosted by yours truly, Captain Rick Wright, United States Navy retired, the historian, and on the board of directors of the National Naval Officers Association. And this is NNOA presents news, views, and historical perspectives of great, incredible members in the United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, Semper Fi, United States Coast Guard, the Public Health Service, and the Oceanographic, and all of our other great groups are connected to the NNOA family. Today, we have an exciting guest. And I could probably talk to him for the next 5 hours, don't repeat ourselves, but Captain Esan Simon, United States Coast Guard, MD from, Emory, that wonderful institution down in the ATL, Atlanta, Georgia, undergrad degree from Harvard, and of course, he becomes a flight surgeon. Now, look, you went, was that Portsmouth, Virginia?
Yes, good, man, you did your homework. You did your homework. So 1998, my first active duty tour was at Naval Medical Center, Portsmouth, 1 year. Fantastic experience, some hard work.
That's a great, beautiful building, though.
Yeah.
Over at the Elizabeth River, the shore.
It was. We were in the old section. It wasn't renovated as yet when we were. Yeah.
So you went there in 1998.
Correct. Building 1.
Do you know what month you went in
June of 1998 was when I started.
Well, guess what? Our great producer, Roosevelt Reuben Wright III of This Is NNOA, was born April 2nd, 1998.
Oh, I just missed it. And but I would have known the pediatric docs that delivered him, though. That because I worked in pediatrics. As a matter of fact, he probably was born in Building 1. So Building 1 was the old section. And
Reuben was born up in Syracuse, New York, but I was talking about the dates, Okay, look. All right.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. So you got the medical career kicking off. You're at the Portsmouth Naval Hospital, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Newport News. You eating all those crabs and all that great seafood and all of that. How long did you stay there again?
Internship was just a year, and it wasn't very social because it was working 80 to 100 hours a week because you're on call like every third night.
So
So,
you
you
get a
know,
chance to
I'd
go
get
out to
there.
the beach and party and having fun and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
there was no partying going on for me. So I was never much of a party guy anyway. So
Oh,
college, med school, it
yes.
was all about the books.
It was all about the books. Now,
Yeah.
you have another title. It's called flight surgeon.
Yep.
And a flight surgeon, man, I mean, you can ground guys, want to fly.
Yeah.
I mean, you got some power in naval
Mhm.
aviation, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard aviation
Mhm.
circles. Now, you had to go to some training for that. Did you had
Sure
went
did.
to the Naval Air Station? Tell us about your flight surgeon training.
Great, man. Navy flight surgery. What a just a tremendous opportunity for training, for opportunity to travel around the world, to go out and get to serve naval aviators and learn about naval aviation and that was really my root, the roots of my sort of operational background. So it's a 6-month school in Pensacola, Florida, and that's there are 2 sets of wings here. These wings on the lower end are the Navy flight surgeon wings. So that was 6 months
Okay.
to obtain those, and it was not easy. In particular, the swimming part, because you had to swim a mile in your flight suit, and it took me 47 minutes, but I finished it, and I swam a mile in my flight suit. And you can't touch the bottom of the pool, you can't touch the
Yeah.
sides, all that kind of thing. But had to do a little extra remedial swimming to get there, but I got it done. and we learned about navigation and weather, and we did something called Aviation Pre-Flight Indoctrination, which is where the pilots, the real pilots, start. Back then it was a 6-week course of instruction. You do all these different non-medical things. They're totally aviation things. So you do that for 6 weeks, and then we had some medicine related to aviation. That was about 2 months. There's different things like when you're pulling G's and going to altitude, and there's barometric pressure changes, all these different physiological adaptations that the body goes through, and so you learn about those things. So that's sort of the medical side. And then the last 2 months we got to do flying, and so back then it was the TH-57 Bell Ranger, and then the T-34 Charlie. So we got to we got to do about 6 or so flights in each one. Electric emergency procedures before you do the flights, and you had to go through different flight syllabus for those 6 flights in the Bell Ranger and in the 34 Charlie, and it was just awesome. I mean, I still keep up with some of my flight surgeon classmates today. Great experience. We learned about mishap investigation, and one thing that I've always appreciated over these 22, I've been on active duty for 22.5 years now, is the cross learning between the operational community and the medical community. For example, a big part of flight surgery was mishap investigation. Well, that's in the context of when an adverse outcome happens in aviation. But guess what? Adverse outcomes happen in medicine as well. And then to have the quality improvement perspective, or the
Roger that, Captain.
So I love those cross links, and that's been a very significant part of my career, is learning from operators, learning from aviation, being a physician, being a doc, being an officer. A lot of crossovers, even though the technical expertise of these different skill sets are very different. I'm not a pilot, so I'll never be a pilot. But I know a lot of pilots, and being around them and seeing how things operate, you can bring that into the medical arena. So yeah, that was flight. And then after the 6 months, I went to Naval Air Station Oceana, Carrier Air Wing 3, on the maiden deployment of the Harry S. Truman. I was the medical department head for the squadron side, for the air wing side. So I had a bunch of squadrons that I was sort of the medical department head for.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is NNOA, your host, Captain Rick Wright, historian for the National Naval Officers Association, United States Navy, retired, and we have the incredible expertise of an incredible guest today, Captain Esan Simon, Medical Director of the United States Coast Guard Academy at New London, Connecticut. Now, in his great historical timeline, he is now heading to Naval Air Station Oceana, the master jet base of the United States Navy. And it's located in beautiful Virginia Beach, Virginia, near the Atlantic Ocean. And he is also assigned, what's that, Carrier Air Wing 3? Is that it?
Carrier Wing 3.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm an old guy. I'm still trying to remember stuff here.
That's all right.
A lot of my students just load yourself up with information. And now, an aircraft carrier, the Harry S. Truman, right?
Yep, that's it.
Big nuclear aircraft carrier. Now, you were on that baby as the flight surgeon. And how, oh, there we go. Boy, look at it, everybody. For those, when Ruben gets the video version, you'll be able to see this picture. What's that, what is that, the FA-18 taking off? It looks like off the deck, not the old F-14s were already going at that time. Well, anyhow, an aircraft carrier and your Carrier Air Wing 3, give us a carrier, Truman, how many guys and ladies on board? 5,000 ship?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was on the aviation side. So we had roughly about 2,000 members on the Air Wing side.
That you were responsible for now.
Right. I was the department head for the Air Wing. And then we had, other flight surgeons. We had two other flight surgeons as well, because we had squadrons all over the country.
Yeah.
We had, back then it was the F-14 Tomcat. We had
favorite plane.
VF, awesome plane. VF-32. By the way, Jesse Brown, I don't know if you know that naval aviation history, but Jesse Brown was in VF-32.
Our first African-American naval aviator.
So
shot down in career, horror story, man. Chosen Reservoir. Yeah.
In VF-32. So the swordsman, the flying swordsman. So that was part of it. So we had Tomcats, then we had Hornets, F-18 Hornets. Then we, and those were, the majority of those were in Oceania. But then we also had a Marine squadron. And so that they came out of Cherry Point. They flew Hornets as well. They had their own flight surgeon. Then if you went down to Jacksonville, Florida, we had the Dusty Dogs, HS-7. So those are the helos, the 860s.
Yes.
And then if you got to Whidbey Island, we had the Prowlers.
West Coast, okay.
Yep, out there. And then if you go up to Norfolk, just a little ways away from Virginia Beach, just 30 minutes, 40 minutes up the road.
Chambersville.
We had the E-2 Hawkeyes.
Naval Air Station Chambers, yes.
And that's where the carrier was as well. And then, of course, the COD, the carrier on board delivery, would just come back and fly back and forth. And that wasn't part of our air wing, but that was all part of the aviation assets. So we had we had the Marine flight surgeon, then we had the flight surgeon for the Dusty Dogs and Whidbey Island, and he was in Jacksonville, and I was in Oceania. And we had our CAG, the commander of the air wing, the commander of the carrier group, and the DCAG, the deputy CAG, were all at Oceania, because that was the sort of the headquarters of the air wing. And then so we had about roughly about 2,000. And then on the nuclear aircraft carrier side, they had their own chain of command. They had about 3,000 or so. The CO, the Truman, the XO, all the department heads, they had the nuclear guy, the senior medical officer, all those, logistics, all that stuff on the ship side.
On the ship
and then, of
side.
course, we would get together.
We got a floating city here. That's what we talk about.
That was it.
A lot of responsibility. Also, to all of our young, incredible people who are looking around for a career, you're talking and listening this afternoon or mornings or afternoon, noon or night to this is NNOA, hosted by Captain Rick Wright, United States Navy retired historian for the National Naval Officers Association, Captain Esan Simon, Captain, United States Navy, United States Coast Guard, Public Health Service, flight surgeon. Ladies and gentlemen, what a career. Hey, Captain, this is the year of the captains, i.e. the National Naval Officers Association, as directed by our great president, Admiral Sinclair Harris. So you are a captain, and you're on our honor roll already. I'm loving it.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm honored.
This afternoon. Now, did you take one of those Mediterranean deployments on the Harry S. Truman?
I sure did, and my bad, I forgot our Vikings as well. S3 Vikings,
yes.
and that aircraft is retired. The Tomcat's retired. Some of the aircrafts are retired, but I got my first cat and trap, catapult shot, and then I read, on a Viking, Andre Ragin. So it was a nighttime flight. It took off around 20:30 or so at night, out there, and so I got my first cat and trap in a Viking on an S3.
And to our great aviation enthusiasts, the captain is talking about taking off of an aircraft carrier and landing, trying to hit that number 3 wire coming down a control crash, we call it, landing on an aircraft carrier at sea.
That aircraft carrier doesn't look as big when it's at night and you're out there in the middle of the ocean. It doesn't look as big as it does when it really doesn't.
I love the naval aviation family when they're compared to the other military services of our great United States of America to say, hey, that's why they call us aviators.
That's it.
Pilots.
That's it.
Now, Captain Simon, after you leave Carrier Wing 3, what happens next?
Yeah, so transitioned over. Then I went to the Naval Aviation Schools Command, which happens to be in Pensacola, which trains flight surgeons. So funny story though, I was going to apply. Well, actually, I had applied to the Blue Angels and to be the flight surgeon for the Blue Angels. And you know, there's a whole process you go through with that. And you know, you go to some of the air shows. So I got invited to some of those, to the briefs with all them, because they kind of have to, you know, check you out. And so I was kind of going down the road, but then right around that time, I started my future wife, which I didn't know at the time was gonna be my future wife, but started
looking for stability, flexibility.
That's it. Some mutual friends introduced us, and I was like, oh wow, man, if I pursue the Blue Angel thing, you know, that's a couple, you know, you're on the road like 280 days a year, and so I pulled my application out of there. I said, no, I'm no longer interested. And then I went to Pensacola to be the doc for all the pilots and the NFOs, Naval Flight Officers.
Who are getting there, we're working for their Navy Wings of Gold and hanging out at the Mustard Officer Club. They had the
So we ended up getting married in Pensacola. Our reception was at the Mustin Beach O Club.
At the Officers Club. Yes.
That's our reception. And we ended up living, if you walk out of the front door of Mustin Beach O Club, the Naval Education and Training Command is right in front of there.
Street, yes.
Right to the left, there's some base housing right there. So we ended up living there, you know, for what, a year and a half, right there in
what
Pensacola.
A beautiful location. I love it.
And so great tour, you know, being around the aviators and training environment, great job. You know, you got to learn about some of the sort of the roots of naval aviation there in Pensacola, how things kind of work. Officer Candidate School was there at the time in Pensacola, which also fell under the Naval Aviation Schools Command. So I was part of Officer Candidate School as well. And so great tour. And then and I was going to continue on in residency in the Navy, but then the Navy started downsizing docks. So.
Okay, now we're getting into an interesting scenario. You are now a member of the United States Public Health Service.
Correct.
Right? And my God, you're at the United States Coast Guard Academy at New London.
Yep.
An interesting scenario. We said things are kind of downside, said, hold it. I'm brilliant, I'm smart. I got an undergrad degree from Harvard. I got a medical degree from Emory. I'm a flight, I'm the real deal. Hey, hold on, it's got to be other opportunity, other paths for advancement. Were you thinking that way? So we go.
Actually, not at all. I was thinking I needed a job. So
okay.
None of that ever occurred to me, and nobody cares about that stuff, to be honest with you.
As an old college professor who's taught a lot of students here at Syracuse University, the Newhouse School, they always call me Dr. Rick, Major Market, or whatever. I always come with all my acronyms about life. But you do end up with an
So yeah, inter-service. So the story there is so I was gonna, you know, physicians, you get your medical degree out of medical school, internship, but to get trained in whatever field you want to go into, you have to do your residency. You know, if you want to be a neurosurgeon, you got to go to 7-10 years of neurosurgery. If you want to be a OBGYN, you know, you go to obstetric and gynecology. If you want to do internal medicine, 3 years of that. That's all after medical school. So I hadn't done that as yet, because I had those operational tours, you know, the Air Wing and Pensacola. And I had applied for my residency in 2003, but I wasn't selected by the Navy. So I didn't get it. So in 2004, I was going to apply again. And then right around that time, I learned that the Navy wanted to reduce the medical corps is the physicians, all the physicians, by 33%, which is pretty significant number.
Oh,
So if you're talking
boy,
about,
they are guys in Washington. What are they thinking? We got
so,
people alive. We need people. Okay,
yeah,
keep
and
going,
you know how these cycles come and go.
yes,
It's just,
yes,
it
yes,
just is what it is. So they
yes.
were doing PBD 712, Program Budget Decision 712, was this huge initiative to reduce all the docs by 33%. So when I learned about that and being a doc, I was like, that doesn't sound very good for my career. So, so I was like, well, I'm either going to get fired or, you know, separated, or who knows what's going to happen. So, and right around then, I heard about the PHS, which I'd never heard of before. I never even heard of it. I didn't know there was a uniform service. I
Public
didn't,
health
you know,
service, yes.
yeah, public health. Sorry, public health service. You know, obviously I knew about the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines. Hadn't been around the Coast Guard much, but the Public Health Service and NOAA, the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration, I never heard of those. But right around that time when the Navy was downsized and somebody mentioned it to me, I said, what is the Public Health Service? So I started researching it. And then I learned about the Coast Guard, and I didn't even know the Coast Guard, you could be a flight surgeon in the Coast Guard, but as the docs in the Coast Guard, they're actually part of the Public Health Service detailed to the Coast Guard. So I was like, wow, I could be a flight surgeon. I said, I'm already a flight surgeon in the Navy. They have flight surgeon jobs in the Coast Guard. Let me put a package in and apply. You know, the Navy was downsizing. The career path wasn't looking very promising. I didn't have any obligation. I didn't want to leave the Navy. I wanted to serve 20 years. But, you know, when somebody tells you, hey, we're getting rid of a third of you all, you just have to make a decision. You know, either you stay, see what happens.
But Crusade for Christ was working for you behind the scenes.
There you go. The good Lord.
Crusade for Christ was working. Said, no, God's not through with you yet. We got other plans for you.
And what I will tell you is, and I love talking to students, whether it's cadets here. I just met with my mentee yesterday morning at 7 in the morning, talking about all kinds of things. But one thing I'm so appreciative of is when doors close or when adversity hits, because adversity tends to get your attention.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I got
in ways that success doesn't. Yeah. And so if somebody's put a wall in front of you, or doors closed, or you're going through a pretty adverse situation, it tends to give you pause for other opportunity. Especially when somebody's saying your job's going away. So that's how I ended up in the Coast Guard.
Public Health Service.
Public Health Service. So I did the inter-service transfer. I talked to then Captain Tedesco, and he was like, okay, hey, here's the jobs. We got a job in Seattle. We got a job in Florida. We got a job in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. So I never heard of Elizabeth City, North Carolina. But we'll take that one. Yeah. So
got to the point of this interview. I can't wait.
That's the ECSU connection.
I was born and raised in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Practically grew up on the whole lawn base of the United States Coast Guard Air Station, Elizabeth City. A graduate of P.W. Moore High School in Elizabeth City.
That's it.
Elizabeth City State University alum. And for days as a young kid growing up in high school, you know what my nickname was in high school?
What's that, Doc?
Coast Guard.
No.
Yes,
are you serious?
Story. I'm serious. You can go back to any of my classmates. I graduated in 1960 from P.W. Moore High School in Elizabeth. So what would happen as a Coast Guard aircraft would fly, we would be out for, you know, lunch on the football field.
Oh, that's
back at P.W. Moore. These are the days of segregated schools too, as a young African-American kid. And I was crazy about electronics, audio, visual. My father, Reuben's grandfather, worked for a motion picture company called the Virginia Carolina Amusement Company in Elizabeth City. He was an electrician and a 35mm motion picture projectionist. So anyhow, at lunchtime, I would be out looking up in the skies, man. In those days, I'm talking the late 1950s, aircraft would fly over P.W. Moore High School going into the approach pad to land at Coast Guard Air, Elizabeth City. And here comes a PB-1G, the old B-17s. And I would look up, would fly over, I would be in heaven. I said, oh my God, there's a Coast Guard B-17. And the kids were looking like I was crazy. And then Coast Guard helicopters flying, the old HU-16s would come over, the PBYs and everything. And I knew the nomenclature of aircraft. And then I had a very dear friend of mine, Charles Bowser, Billy Bowser,
Okay.
He left in his junior year. His family moved away, but he majored in aeronautical engineering at the University of Illinois Champaign. The story with the Coast Guard connection is that Billy's family, the Bowser family, and also my family, the Mackey and Collins family, are direct descendants of the P. Allen Surfman, the first African-American lifeboat station 30 miles above Cape Hatteras.
And have you seen Admiral Roshan's history
Yes.
video on P Island?
Yes, yes.
Isn't that phenomenal?
And in
Phenomenal.
fact, on the P. Allen story, you know, they incredible. So Mr. Bowser, Billy's father, Mr. William Bowser Sr., in 1980. By the way, how did you learn about NNOA, Captain?
Oh, great. By the way, quick other side note. My wife, she's a teacher by training. She taught at Sheep Harney Elementary School in Elizabeth City.
Harney. Yes.
Did you go to Sheep Harney?
No, I didn't go. That Sheep Harney was for all the white kids when I was coming up. But then my father became the audiovisual director for the Pasquotank County, Elizabeth City Public Schools, Mr. Roosevelt R. Wright Sr. And their headquarters was at Sheep Harney, the audiovisual center at one time.
I would love
that building.
I'd love you have to send me some of that history. I know if you've got some articles or something like that. I'd love to see that.
I think we could go for 5 hours on this one. But anyway, that was my nickname, Coast Guard. So now you were assigned to Coast Guard Air Station Elizabeth City. Look, here God works in mysterious ways, and it had to have been you. I went home roughly about 2004.
Yep. I got there in 2000. My first day in the Public Health Service Coast Guard was November 20th of 2004. That was the first day I showed up in East City.
I went to homecoming at Elizabeth City State University. It had to be at the same time, around November, homecoming. And before of course, I picked up, landed at Norfolk, picked up the, the rental car, right, a nice, pretty convertible, man, homecoming, Elizabeth City State. And that's, I think Saturday after I left the gas, so let me fill the car up with gas. So I drove down to the exchange at Coast Guard Air Elizabeth City. And I know this had to have been you. The exchange is right across the street from a building.
From the medical clinic.
I saw this brother.
So if there's a black guy, in a flight suit, it's probably a good chance.
Going up the steps. This is a true story. I was getting gas in my car, and you got out of those steps. You walk up, and I said, "Oh my God, there's a brother Coast Guard officer." And I got the car filled up. You had gone in, and I was trying to meet some folk because I was going to go try to find you. But
I wish you would have come and said hi.
Boy, here it is, the 21st of November, 2020, and here through the technology of intercommunications and Zoom podcast. This is NNOA, hosted by yours truly, Captain Rick Wright, and I got a chance to, as we salute captains, Captain Esan Simon, who was walking up those steps that day. That was
probably me.
Okay, all righty. Okay, now look, why you at Elizabeth City Coast Guard Air Station, which is really the coast. At one time, it still is the Coast Guard's largest air station, and of course, you did a lot of flights out there. Now we had a big hurricane that happened called Katrina. You were the medical service director, weren't you, with the Coast Guard efforts with Katrina, weren't you?
That was quite so 2000. So I got in November 2004, and just the next year, 2005, with Katrina, and how things work in the PHS Coast Guard. Hey, they send out hey, who wants to go? Who wants to help out? So I was like, hey, I asked my boss, hey, can I go? And so I spent 2 weeks down there. Forward deployed operating base NOLA is what it was. Right, the 17th Street levee was one of the ones that broke, and it was just kind of, so there was a small little Coast Guard unit right there. So we set up shop right there. Folks, fortunately we had what's called a PSU, Port Security Unit. So the PSU are these forward deployed assets that the Coast Guard has, and they can kind of set up shop around the world, right?
And they were quick, yes. Well, that's what the Coast Guard does.
And they're all
ready to go.
They're kind of geared for that. Okay. So we had a PSU. So I don't know what I would have done without the PSU, but they say, because they have all this stuff, all this equipment, and they're deployable. I was a doc at a clinic, so the clinic is not a deployable, unit, you know.
Yes,
just a
roger
clinic.
that. Yes,
So
Captain.
so I kind of packed my bag and just kind of threw my stethoscope in there, a couple of books, and went to New Orleans, you know. So
Did you fly to Elizabeth City like on a C-130 out of Elizabeth City or Hilo, whatever to get down there?
You know what? It might have. You know what? It might have been. I can't remember. But because you know, it's kind of hard to get into New Orleans. You know, you couldn't.
No. I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Look, getting back to Elizabeth City though.
Yeah.
And my nickname was Coast Guard. True story.
Uh-huh.
Peter Boy High School days. In fact, I never forget when the Coast Guard got their first C-130, the very first one, like 1959, wow. And there was a headline in the Daily Advance, Captain. Coast Guard breaks the new plane barrier.
Oh, well, hey, they're still flying the C-130, man. That's a great aircraft. That thing is
what a plane.
That's a great aircraft.
Captain, boy, by the way, again, ladies and gentlemen, this is NNOA, our weekly podcast as we broadcast from upstate New York. And Reuben Wright III is the executive director. And today we have as our guest the medical director of the United States Coast Guard Academy at New London, Connecticut, Captain Esan Simon, United States Navy, United States Coast Guard, Public Health Service, all these acronyms behind us. By the way, you got an MBA too. You handle money too, right?
Yeah, I did an MBA that last tour in the Navy when I was at Pensacola, did an online program. And
an MBA.
So, yeah, and
this is, hey, I'm enjoying this. Now, after Elizabeth City, you had other air stations. You were at Clearwater, I think, also.
Yeah. So couple two points there. You'd asked about NNOA, and then I'll get
the NNOA. So, how did you discover NNOA and find out about this organization?
Yeah. So for those who are not aware, years back, training, in particular, the first year out of medical school, it's called internship. Traditionally, it was really hard, very difficult. Like, you know, so no, true story. Like, we were working 80 to 100 hours a week at Naval Medical Center Portsmouth. And the way that happens is, like, in the pediatric internship program, every third night you're on call. So here would be a normal day. So I'd show up 4:30 or 5 in the morning to do the pre-rounds before the attending got there. You'd round in the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit, this and all that. And then you'd have a full day. And then if that day was your call, you'd have a full night of call. And Portsmouth was a pretty busy place, so there's deliveries. You know, you got to intubate kids in the NICU. I mean, it was pretty intense.
Well, we got the whole Atlantic Fleet. Norfolk.
Yep.
I mean,
a lot going on. So you have, get there 4 or 5 in the morning, work all day, and then you work all night. But then the next day is a normal day. So you started on Monday at 4 or 5 in the morning. But by this time, it's Tuesday night at like 7 or 8 at night when you're leaving the hospital. So you leave the hospital, but then Wednesday morning, you're back at 5 in the morning, 4 or 5. So, and then you do that like every third night. So in no time at all, it's like 80 to 100 hours a week. So it was pretty, I tell you, it was one of the more difficult times like in my life, just because it was, mentally challenging, it was physically challenging, because when you're, working 100 hours a week, you're tired, It was emotionally challenging. I mean, because, there were some sick people that you're taking care of. And sometimes,
right now we got a pandemic going on there, and I'm just looking at all the medical communities around the country.
So, and no kidding, 2 times I literally almost died that year 2 times because I'd fallen asleep in my car, like literally twice. I mean, like, I was pretty close to hitting the bridge because I was just knocked out in the car. And another time, but so it was
taking care of you.
It was hard. So I'm walking around the hospital once. So this is back to your question about NNOA, and this captain just walks up to, hey, you should go to this conference in Norfolk, and coming up in it was in 1999, because I was there from 98 to 99. And I said, well, what conference is that? He said, National NNOA. It's like, just like how Coach Finey said you should apply to Harvard. I said, okay, Captain, I'll go to the conference. Had no idea what it was about. And so it was the NNOA. That's the first time I heard about that conference. He was a hematologist, a pediatric active duty captain, heme oncologist. And he told me about the conference. I showed up there. I was like, wow, this is, and I remember that was the year I met Admiral James Johnson. He was a black admiral. At that time, he was 1-star. He was, I think at that time, he was the head of the chief doc for the Marine Corps.
Yes.
And so, you know, these docs for the Marine Corps, you know, got the
Squared
Marine
away,
cut,
huh?
you know, there, I mean, you know, you know, people like that just walk in the room, you just kind of, you know, yeah. But before they even say anything, you know, just, so he was that kind of presence, and it just, and I never forget, performance. That was, I mean, I can literally see him right now, because you know, in a way, you learn about all these professional development things,
yes.
You know, how to navigate your career, and you know, how to be an officer, how to be a leader, you know, all that. I didn't know that stuff, right? I mean, I was trying to like literally stay alive during internship, and not try to, like, you know, have an adverse outcome in the neonatal intensive care unit and all these sick kids and intubating. So that was my year, just being kind of consumed by that. So I got that NNOA, and I took him in the Navy, it's called the FIT-REP, the fitness report. You know,
Roger, yes.
In the Coast Guard, it's the OER, the Officer Evaluation Report. In the Public Health Service, it's called the CORE, the Commissioned Officer Evaluation Report. Marine Corps, you know. So anyways, I took him that and sat down with him for like 30 minutes, and he, like, one-on-one, you know,
just all the bullets, huh?
Showed me all this stuff. Well, yes. I'm like, whoa, man, this is just totally opened my eyes to all these things that you just don't get those things anywhere else, you know. There's things that, you know, the services teach you, but then there's things that you have to kind of be taught, you know, in other. So that's, and not only was it a professional, but over the course of my career, the NNOA, it's like family. Just like I listened to the broadcast last week with Ernie Taylor, who I've been to his house. I met his wife. You know, we've had, because he had. So, anyways, and what he said was, NNOA is like family. So yeah, you learn all these professional development things. You learn how about navigate career, and that stuff is important. But you got this family of, you know, hey, just people that you can just kind of. So that was the beginning of my NNOA.
NNOA for you.
Yeah.
For me, in 1982, I heard about NNOA from my CEO up here at CRUPCOM, Naval Recruiting District, Buffalo. And he called me on the phone and said, hey, Commander Wright, I want to send you and Chuck down to the NNOA convention in Norfolk. I said, yes, love to. We're going to cut orders for you guys, grab a G car and drive down, make it that way. So I said, what is NNOA? So I picked up the phone, called back over to the Naval Recruiting District headquarters at Buffalo, New York at that time. And we only had one other African-American officer, Lieutenant Chuck Parr. Chuck was a graduate of Prairie View, A&M University, surface warfare officer on recruiting duty. I called over to I said, Chuck, hi, look, Rick here, man. What's NNOA? He started laughing on the phone, and he said, and I said, the skipper we're going to go out to the NNOA convention in Norfolk. He said, you're going to love it, man. That's when all the brothers and sisters of the family, Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard get together.
Yeah.
And then we drove down and stopped over in D.C. and got to Norfolk, checked into the Waterside Hotel, which is right there. This is 1982 NNOA convention. And I never forget, we checked in the hotel, went in for that first general session. And I walked into the ballroom of that hotel. Of course, having grown up, you know, in the Navy and the Coast Guard, my mom and all loved the Coast Guard. And man, I walked in and just the whole room was just full of just an array of African-American brother and sister, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard officers, Public Health Service. I said, what? and Vice Admiral Lawrence Chambers, who was the second African-American graduate of the United States Naval Academy. He was the CEO of the USS Midway when Vietnam was falling to pieces. And, you know, he was the skipper of the Midway, pushing those helicopters off the deck.
Yeah,
a Vietnamese colonel could land his airplane.
To land, I know
that was Admiral Lawrence Chambers, and he was the keynote speaker to kick off NNOA. And man, his speech was an inspiring speech that day. I know he got up and kind of admonished all the brothers and sisters who said, you all going to Washington, living nice, want to live good in the Capitol. No, you're going to get out here and get in the fleet and get into your different commands and billets and move up the chain. But that was his opening sermon that day, NNOA. And in fact, Judge Fontroy, John D. Fontroy, who was Superior Court judge for the District of Columbia, great African-American judge, he was the president of NNOA at the time. And I walked in and he learned that I was a professor, radio TV at Syracuse and Newhouse School. And he said, Roosevelt, man, we need help quick in the public affairs area. We need a newsletter, it needs to be done. And I said, okay, I can do that. And he said, hey, you're on the board of directors. So that's what happened to me. In fact, all I want to say, in fact, I was just going through some of my stuff here. Here is a copy. Let me pull this up. I'm going to send some of this stuff to you. This is a copy of the NNOA newsletters that I was publishing back in the 1980s. And
that's awesome.
That's Judge Fontroy right here at the bottom.
Yeah.
And this, I did, and what I did was, after, I went in as a rookie. I'm a brand new, I just got my commission as a lieutenant commander in February. Because, by the way, I got Army time in my career. Tell what you know that. I was Army enlisted, Hawk Missile Electronics. Got drafted in the Army right when I was finishing up my master's degree at North Central University. 19th January 1966, Private E1 U.S. Army. Drafted.
I heard that story last week when you interviewed Ernie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so, and of course, the Navy was really, I always said my naval commission was a gift from Reuben's grandmother. When she died in 1979, she told me, don't forget the Navy. I said, Mom, she was dying of cancer. And she died a few days later. And then a year to that day, in fact, I met some naval officers in 1980. And out of that, got commissioned. And 1 year to the date when Mom told me, don't forget the Navy, I received my I picked up the phone. It was a commander, that is Captain Steve McGanka, on the phone saying, hey, Dr. Wright, I have great news for you. Your commissioning documents in the hands of the Secretary of the Navy. And it was really much a year to the day that Mom said, don't forget the Navy. But what I did, I told the membership back in the 1980s, just send me all your photographs, articles, whatever you're doing. I got my students and stuff at the Newhouse School who were majoring in magazine and public relations. And I think I did about 3,000 copies of each newsletter. Wow. And then I used to basically, we put them in boxes down to the Trailway bus station here in Syracuse. And I would send them down to the Florida A&M ROTC unit. Captain Gilchrist was CO, and they would put all the postage and stuff on them and send them out. But this is what I did. These are the newsletters. Here's a picture of Captain Gilchrist right here.
Oh, that's awesome.
That column and all. But
so, the other thing that I'd say about NNOA, because you're talking about history. So from 1999, when I first, learned about it, I literally was at people's homes like Charlie Tompkins.
That's my guy.
I've been to his house. I know his daughter. We stayed. My wife and I stayed at her house. And so I already told you about Admiral James Johnson. Vice Admiral Robinson, who was the Surgeon General of the Navy. I remember when Captain at the time, Manson Brown, was going over to Iraq, and he was the president, to do that. I can go on and on. And Commander
Admiral Manson Brown, we were on the History Makers, which is a big organization that Juliana Richardson put together 20 years ago. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary, and we just did a production. Bill Whitaker, CBS 60 Minutes correspondent, was a moderator, interviewing General Vincent Brooks of the famous Brooks family just the other day, and Admiral was on the
I literally would be at conferences and interact with these folks, Admiral Errol Brown, Admiral Roshan, all these folks. So
look, I found another picture here. This picture. Admiral Samuel Gravely.
Oh, Admiral Gravely. Yeah.
It's in this photograph, one of the newsletter I published, and I had an article on Dory Miller right here. And also, but that was kind of stuff I did. This is all about you. Now, look, Captain, boy, I know you're busy. You got to take care of all those cadets at the United States Coast Guard Academy at New London. Now, real quickly, give us your responsibilities right now. Of course, you also were at Cape May, New Jersey, where where all the recruits come into the Coast Guard.
And right before Cape May, I went the coast. Another thing about the military, the Coast Guard, the Navy is just all the opportunities. So right before Cape May, I'd applied to go to residency in family medicine. Yeah. And so I spent 3 years at the Mayo Clinic doing family medicine residency.
Out of Arizona?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
there's one Mayo Clinic in 3 locations.
Yeah.
Rochester
Okay.
is the main one, Jacksonville, Florida, and then Scottsdale, Arizona. So we went to the one in Scottsdale, but I was still on active duty with the Coast Guard. So it was sponsored. The training was sponsored by the Coast Guard. 3 years. I mean, that was just one of the best 3 years. Just an unbelievable opportunity to be at the Mayo Clinic.
Okay. Mayo.
Still on active duty, still getting the time to retirement and all that,
Great.
but then getting full-time training.
Great.
Two of our kids were born out there, and
Yeah.
and then we went to Cape May, and then our third child was born out there, and 2 great years at Cape May. My Admiral Kelly, who's the boss now at the Coast Guard Academy, back then was Captain Kelly, the CO at Cape May. So, I had a chance to meet him, and that's actually how I ended up at this job. But, 10 years later. But
Admiral Kelly of the United States Coast Guard, Captain Rick Wright, host of our program, This is NNOA, Captain United States Navy retired. Admiral Kelly, thank God for your leadership, your guidance, and your tenacity of selecting Captain Esan Simon to become the medical director of the United States Coast Guard. And I love the Coast Guard because all the sea services too. Now, before we close out, my director, Ruben said just keep going, but I want to kind of get into the United States Coast Guard Academy. Sure. And your responsibilities as the medical director, but your staff. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, the United States Coast Guard Academy is one of our premier service academies now. We have West Point, duty honor country for the Army. We have the United States Air Force Academy out in the mountains of Colorado, training Air Force officers. We got the United States Naval Academy at Annapolis, training naval officers. And ladies and gentlemen, there's the United States Merchant Marine Academy. But also there's another great academy too, the United States Coast Guard Academy, where young people want to go. You don't need a congressional appointment. It's all by test scores and stuff, right?
All right. There's no congressional appointment needed for admission to the Coast Guard Academy. Great school.
Now, the United States Coast Guard Academy, you are the medical director. Tell us about this experience that you're going through right now, Captain Simon.
Sure. And I'll just do one little rewind, and then I'll answer your question. So the rewind was last year, I was at ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, something called the ICE Health Service Corps, Immigration Customs Health Service Corps, which is another organization where public health service officers can be assigned to, providing health care. And in the case of ICE, it's correctional medicine, and to that detained population and providing that health care. So I had 2 different jobs at ICE headquarters, associate medical director, and then medical executive officer, 2 different portfolios of responsibilities there. But gave that I just had to give a shout out to my IHSC folks. Great, tremendous opportunity. I learned so much. Dr. Freda Berger, who hired me, and I, quite honestly, I'd never even heard of correctional medicine before I applied to that job, but didn't really know about ICE or ICE Health Service Corps before that job. So huge learning curve for me personally and professionally, but tremendous opportunity of growth. Learned a lot of connections there to ICE and ICE Health Service Corps, which has helped with this job and just kind of giving
Coast Guard Academy.
Yeah, for sure.
Family. This is NNOA, our weekly podcast as we interview news, views, and historical perspectives of members of the National Naval Officers Association, the United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, United States Coast Guard, the Public Health Service, the Oceanographic Administration. We love you so much. And today, Captain Esan Simon, the medical director of the great United States Coast Guard Academy, where the Coast Guard cutter Eagle is tied up out there on the river right now, I'm sure. Our only sailing bark ship in the fleet right now. And Captain, I know right now the difficulties as we get ready for Thanksgiving here in the year 2020, we got a pandemic going on right now, a virus that's just wiping our country out. And of course, it is a major area of decision. We got a new administration getting ready to come aboard. Vice President Joseph Biden and Kamala Harris will be inducted into the leadership of our country. By the way, President Biden, I would say, is know him personally. He's a Syracuse University graduate of our law school here. And of course, Senator Kamala Harris, our vice president, sure all the brothers and sisters of the Divine Nine, the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority are screaming to heaven. And of course, also, by the way, happy Founders Day to all the brothers of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity.
Oh, watch out now. Watch out.
The organization. I'll just shut up right there. But it's
all right.
But getting back to right now, the situation that we're in right now.
Yeah.
I mean, your brilliance, a great education, and of course in the medical community. And boy, just my hats off to all of you right now as we fight this incredible pandemic right now. Kind of give us a little bit of the scenario at the United States Coast Guard Academy right now. You're running the place and you're it. So tell us about it there, Captain, before we end up today.
So much we could talk about with COVID-19, the pandemic, and what's going on. But here's one big summary that I'll say in regards to the management of this pandemic. It struck me very early on that this is a very complicated and complex situation. And it was significantly beyond the purview of just any one entity. And when I mean by any one entity, I mean medical, academics, the United States government, the civilian sector, big pharma, the World Health Organization. I mean, there's all these entities.
A global interconnection. Yes.
And one thing that I discovered real early on that, there's, obviously some medical components related to it, but this is a massive joint venture of something like that. I've never personally experienced anything close to this, in my life. So to say that, and I'll just give you a couple of examples. Hey, I didn't have a class in medical school about, hey, this is how to manage a global pandemic if you're the medical director at a college campus, right? So I didn't have the class in medical school about, of course, when I was in medical school, never heard of COVID-19 because it wasn't around. So, for example, I set up a weekly conference with all the medical director equivalents from the different service academies, and we would just talk for an hour every week. Hey, what's going on at Naval Academy? Hey, what's going on at West Point, Air Force Academy, Merchant Marine Academy? And we would just had this collaboration, and so that's just one example. So as it relates to the Coast Guard Academy, in subsequent sort of logic to that about the collaboration, we absolutely could not have class or have this organization known as the Coast Guard Academy functioning without the collaborative efforts of everybody. For example, the science department has set up a surveillance testing program run by these, PhDs in the Coast Guard Academy Science Department, which is literally right over here. Biophysicists and PhD types, and I call them the 50-pound brain guys because that's way out of my league. Like I don't even try to understand, the algorithms and the formulas and and now like totally out of my league. But you know what? I don't have to know it because they're here. So I just just have to play my role, but I have to work with them, and then I've got to work with academics or the cadet division. The cadet division are the ones that are in charge of the military aspects of the Coast Guard. So there's all this logistical, oh, by the way, there's a football team and 26 plus NCAA sports and club sports, and so you work with the athletic department. So what really the big point that I'm getting at is just the collaboration and collaborative effort to make this as safe and healthy as possible, so that we can build and train leaders of character for service to the Coast Guard, because that's what it's all about. So that's kind of how I'll summarize the pandemic and what we've done here, and the collaboration is. I tell you one thing, necessities of mother invention kind of thing. Hey, global pandemic, which is beyond the resources and ability of any particular entity, boy, that's going to really make you kind of, work together, because you kind of have no choice. If you don't, it's just not going to work. So that's a huge lesson that I've learned from it. And we can go on and on, we can talk the next hour just about that.
Yeah.
Right. So,
well, you're doing a great job, though. And my God, as Dr. Murray Cloud Bethune said many years ago, the president and founder of Bethune-Cookman College, Dr. Bethune said, our people will never be satisfied until they see Black faces in high places. And My God, look what is happening, the great work of the Crusade for Christ and your great religious beliefs, and coming from a country that, coming to the United States as a young man and going up through the ranks and get to the top of the food chain now in the United States.
I would. You make me sound a little better than I am. So, but
yes, you are, and of course, a member of NNOA, and there's more ladders to climb in the ranks of what you're working at right now. And
and you know what I would say, when I gave you a couple of names of some of the folks who I've, personally known and literally learned from over the years. When I look at those folks, the Errol Browns, the Manson Browns, Vice Admiral, Admiral Grooms, and all these, on and on and on, Sinclair Harris, Admiral Harris, I'm not even, I can't hold a candle to those guys, man. So,
I say the same thing. Well, we'll keep on keeping on and making things happen. Also, another name I like to lay out this afternoon, who was a great member of the National Naval Officers Association, was the first African-American aviator in the United States Coast Guard, dear friend who passed a number of years ago, Captain Bobby Wilkes, and the United States Coast Guard aviator, incredible brother and all. Also, before I close up, though, today, Coast Guard story with the Wright family, Reuben Wright III's grandmother, and he's a producer of this podcast, and she just told me from heaven to tell this story. In Elizabeth City, North Carolina, during the 1950s, Mom worked for a baby doctor, pediatric. Yes, his name was Dr. Mercer Bailey in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And Dr. Bailey had a daughter, and about, in the 1950s, his daughter was named Sylvia. And Sylvia was like one of the princesses of Elizabeth City, North Carolina, wealthy father living out on the Passatate River out in Riverside. Well, Mom basically worked for the family. And one day, Sylvia came to my mother, Reuben's grandmother, Miss Lily Mae Wright, and said, Lily Mae, I heard that those Coast Guard cadets from the Coast Guard Academy are coming back in the summertime for their aviation training at the Coast Guard Air Station. And my girlfriend, boy, I would love to meet some of those cadets from the Coast Guard Academy, those pretty uniforms and all. And my mother looked at Sylvia and said, Sylvia, when are you going to get smart? You have all the resources here. Why don't you write a letter to the Coast Guard Air Station CEO and tell them you'd like to put on a luncheon or, a barbecue, to welcome the young cadets to Elizabeth City. She said, I can do that? She said, yeah. So my mother wrote the letter for her, all right?
Oh, that's awesome.
And the letter went to Captain A.J. DeJoy, who was the commanding officer of the Coast Guard Air Elizabeth City, and said he would like to invite the Coast Guard cadets over to they had a house out on the, that pretty section of Elizabeth out the Passatate. Riverside. And,
I know it well.
So the Coast Guard cadets came down in a Coast Guard R5D. Two of them flew, and they flew a low pass over the city, and the city just ecstatic, and the planes landed at the Coast Guard Air Station. And the next day, the bus brought all the cadets over to the house that day on the river. And Mom had this tent set up and all that North Carolina barbecue and seafood and all. And I never forget, my mother came to me and said that one of the young Coast Guard cadets said, my God, I'd never seen anything like this before. Another kid who came from no means to big time, at the academy and all. But it was fascinating. That's the Coast Guard Academy story to the Coast Guard. And of course, Elizabeth City native here, Captain Rick Wright, host of This is NNOA. Captain Simon, this is the year of the captains. And Admiral Sinclair Harris, another captain, has appeared on our great podcast as we broadcast from upstate New York. Captain Simon, I could talk to you for a lifetime. Can't wait to see you in person. And I never forget that young Coast Guard officer going up those steps that day when I was getting my car gassed up at the exchange at the Elizabeth City Coast Guard Air Station. It was you. And God worked in mysterious ways on this November day before Thanksgiving in the year 2020. Any parting words you'd like to say to our great audience throughout the world, Captain Simon, before I let you go? Because I know you're busy, and I'm hoping keeping those cadets safe at the academy.
Well, what an absolute pleasure. Absolutely honored that you would, choose me as your third or fourth now, fourth guest now for this podcast. It's been a pleasure chatting on some memories. We are on NNOA, so I just have to give a shout out for Captain Artis Crosland, who was that 06 back in 1998, 1999, who first said, hey, you should go to this conference called the NNOA. And throughout, and that's just one example of many, many, many folks throughout my career who just said, hey, Simon, how about this? Or, hey, Simon, hey, did you think about this? Or, hey, let me give you a little advice. And I can go on and on over the folks who've done that. And that's why I'm here today, because of all those folks like Captain Crosland, like Admiral Errol Brown, who's taken time to help me on applications and giving me advice and all that. As recently as yesterday, I emailed Admiral Brown when I just told him that I got into a Dartmouth program for a Master's in Healthcare Delivery Science.
Oh, Dartmouth! You gotta wear some
yep.
green. You gotta wear a little green. That's a
and
color, you know?
And that's something else that I've learned from NNOA. All these individuals who I personally have known, just that passion for performance and excellence, and if I could just have done a little bit of what they've done throughout their careers and their lives and impacted just a few people in the way they have, I would have considered my life well spent if, and I'm literally on their shoulders, and it's just great to be here. I was going to retire last year, had my retirement letter in my hand, and I was going to submit it on April the 1st, and 2 weeks before that, Aaron Kelly called me, and somebody else called me, and so I'm very glad they did that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And so thanks for the offer, and it's great that you got to throw the Coast Guard in this, and I look forward to continued collaboration with NNOA, and look forward to that 50th year celebration. And you're doing a great job putting a whole bunch of different things together. So looking forward to the final product. So thanks for the time.
Well, bravo Zulu to you, Captain Esan Simon, Medical Director of United States Coast Guard Academy, New London, Connecticut. And this has been NNOA, hosted by yours truly, Captain Rick Wright. The Executive Director is Roosevelt Reuben Wright III. And the news and views expressed by Captain Esan Simon are basically his, folk, and not necessarily the views of the United States Coast Guard or the United States Coast Guard Academy at New London. Coming up very soon, I'm also going to try to get on cadet midshipman at the Naval Academy, Sydney Barber. Congratulations to you, first female.
Yes.
And also, we got to get Dr. Captain Mary McAdams on board, who's down in Captain McAdams. Now, she's head of our whole NROTC program, mentoring program, since you mentioned mentoring. And I got to get to Captain Mary McAdams. Captain Mary McAdams, your friend, Captain Rick Wright, will be calling you to be on the show. And, of course, Commander Denise McCullough Curry, our immediate past president out in California. How you doing this afternoon also? And, ladies and gentlemen, again, bravo Zulu to you. Happy Thanksgiving year 2020 to the family of the National Naval Officers Association. Bravo Zulu to you again, Captain Simon. And I'll check with you real soon. I'll call you, stay in contact. And by the way, I got another job for you. You should be a public affairs officer for the whole United States Coast Guard. That's your next duty assignment. Okay. Roger,
thanks, Doc.
I salute you. Take care and go out and enjoy the USS Coast Guard Cutter Eagle. It's tied up.
Sign it off, Doc. Thanks.
Roger that. Okay. Outstanding. Tally away we go. Always ready. The United States Coast Guard. We'll have another big show next week. This is NNOA.